Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
The Classic South. Backwoods. Countryside. And a distinctive pace of life in concert with a sprawling rural landscape. The New South. Growth, progress, and a changing pace of life, keeping tempo with a changing landscape, often punctuated by an urban kind of sprawl. Nostalgic images of the Old South often convey an idyllic place, while some aspects of the modern changing South may seem less appealing. But of course, neither picture is complete. Much of the history of the South is a story of struggle, poverty, and yes, the stigma of racism. The very term New South, on the other hand, conveys the hope, the intent of resolving these problems of the past. And today, New South progress is bringing dramatic change to most southern states, including parts of Alabama. Like here in Tuscaloosa County. We all know the famous song, "Stars Fell on Alabama." Well, here in Tuscaloosa County today, some would say a special star has arrived. This and other kinds of change in the Tuscaloosa area signal a region in transition. I'm Doug Phillips. Join me for a look at Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, its past, its present, and what may lie in store for its future. This program is about a land unknown to many people. A land that in many ways has maintained its native natural wonders. A place of bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the wild wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama. Welcome to Discovering Alabama. And welcome to a bird's eye view of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, county seat to Tuscaloosa County. When Mercedes-Benz located its first U.S. auto plant several miles up the road here in 1994, the event drew worldwide attention to the Tuscaloosa area. Local officials celebrated Mercedes' arrival with predictions of much more growth to come, with assurances that the county was now poised for rapid transition. But transition from what and to what? Prospects for rapid change have prompted active consideration of this question. Many Tuscaloosans today prefer life at a distinctively southern pace. For example, early morning in the city of Tuscaloosa is very different than the 24-hour-a-day bustle of most urban areas. Instead, we find a peaceful, quiet setting, a pleasant setting, still with an aura of small-town appeal. And from up here, we can also look out across the horizon and begin to see that the surrounding Tuscaloosa County is every bit as appealing in natural assets. To the north and east are the foothills of Appalachia, with their striking vistas and valleys. To the south and west, the county joins the East Gulf coastal plain, with its gentle rolling countryside. Throughout the county are lush forest lands, laced with streams and lakes, including magnificent Lake Tuscaloosa. And one of the county's grandest natural features, just a stone's throw right down there, is the mighty Black Warrior River. A river significant in the history and heritage of this part of Alabama. The very name Tuscaloosa is an Indian word meaning Black Warrior, referring to the powerful chief Tuscaloosa, encountered by Hernando de Soto on his trek through Alabama in 1540. It was along the banks of the Black Warrior that De Soto would make another encounter, the mysterious mounds, a village from prehistoric times,
remnant of a native culture that existed here for hundreds of years, thriving on a natural bounty that would hold special appeal for centuries to follow.
If you were coming up the Black Warrior River in the early 1800s, the first thing you would have noticed, aside from the clear water, is a band of bamboo, native cane, stretching 30, 40 feet high all the way along both banks. You arrive in what's now Tuscaloosa, you would have found an immense forest, and of course game were teeming in the area. Okay, in the early 1800s, this area became associated with a number of pretty famous names at the time. Tecumseh, Andrew Jackson, later to become president, David Crockett. This was the frontier.
Andrew Jackson, Tecumseh, Davy Crockett. Just a few of the famous names from early American history that are also associated with Tuscaloosa's history. From the time of discovery and on into the period of settlement, the natural setting of this region continued to hold strong allure. From 1826 until 1847, Tuscaloosa served as state capital. The ruins of the old Capitol building are still with us today. In 1831, the University of Alabama was founded here, where it has since served as something of a community centerpiece through the ebb and flow of life in Alabama, through times that were hard and times that were good. While we can only touch on a few highlights of Tuscaloosa County's past in this program, the full story is rich and intriguing. We've explored much of the history of this region in other shows. Today, the University of Alabama remains a primary employer in the area, providing a variety of quality research and educational programs. And here, near the banks of the Black Warrior, one of the nation's most splendid campus settings. A comfortable setting indicative of much of the surrounding county, which still has plenty of natural appeal, plenty of southern charm. Some would say that much of the New South era has passed Tuscaloosa by, that Tuscaloosa County has lagged behind. Certainly, compared to the booming growth of places like Atlanta, growth in the Tuscaloosa area has been barely a whisper. But the winds of change are blowing.
A new spirit of progress is readily apparent each year at Tuscaloosa's International City Fest. At the heart of the City Fest celebration is the German-style wine door, a reflection of the economic promise heralded by a major new star in town, prestigious German automaker Mercedes-Benz. To the world's surprise, in 1993, Mercedes selected Tuscaloosa County, Alabama for its first auto plant in North America, a $500 million venture to supply a global market with the new Mercedes M-Class, thus adding new class to the local image.
Well, what Mercedes brings to the table, other than the jobs, which are very high-paying jobs and using high technology, other than that, what it brings to the state is an image to be associated with a world-known name that is known for high engineered craftsmanship, very high quality, the high standard of the automotive industry, and we Alabamans are meeting that challenge.
Mercedes is an important part of our economic formula. There's no doubt about that. It certainly opened up the world in more ways than one to not only Alabama, but obviously Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Pretty solid community before Mercedes came, or they wouldn't have decided to locate here. Certainly was an international flavor already, some avenues open, but it certainly opened new doors and put us into a position where we can genuinely compete with just about anybody we want to.
Tuscaloosa is in a class all its own. And of course we're playing off the M-Class. We also like to let everybody know that we have one of the largest private art collections right here in Tuscaloosa County at Gulf States. And then we have a number of museums. The Alabama Museum of Natural History. I mean, we're blessed with all of those.
As you travel around the Tuscaloosa area, You soon see that Mercedes selected a community with a lot already going for it, including many established businesses and business families with strong international names of their own, adding further to the potential for expanding growth in the region. Indeed, in Tuscaloosa County today, business as usual is becoming business as never before.
The economic benefits of Tuscaloosa's recent growth are many. New jobs, new commercial and residential development, and increasing tax revenues to support education and many important community services.
However, as many high-growth regions across America are realizing, rapid growth can bring environmental dilemmas. Urban sprawl, traffic congestion, development into areas of prime farmland and forest land, and the eventual loss of native surroundings. To accommodate expanding growth, there must be expanding infrastructure of many kinds, often replacing the countryside aesthetic with, well, a different look.
Sometimes the environmental consequences of growth can catch local folks by surprise, as is the case here along Hurricane Creek at one of Tuscaloosa's exceptional wild areas.
A couple of years ago, we started getting phone calls from people who love this area, and we had not realized that a bypass is coming right through this area. To me, this place is just remarkable all the time. In the springtime, it is just lush with wildflowers. I have never seen so many wildflowers. There are lots of places where there are honeycomb cliffs, which are unique to this area. It is a beautiful area where people can come and find solitude. You know, this is only a part of a bypass that's being built around Tuscaloosa. And when the traffic gets heavy on this bypass, then what's coming next? Another bypass, just like Atlanta. Before I found out about this particular area being impacted, we were already concerned with the western bypass that has illegally gone across wetlands. And this bypass is going through rural areas that are completely undeveloped. It's going through properties that have been owned by families for years and years, and going to bring in development that completely destroys the rural nature of that area.
Rapid growth can bring conflict between two time-honored American values: the free pursuit of economic development and the freedom to enjoy private property.
Every single day, I'm thankful to be in paradise. I mean it seriously. I mean, this place is what we regard as paradise. And we now have a threat even. We realize that it isn't going to stay here just on its own, that there are threats. I don't know what you'd call them, political threats or threats from growth or suburban sprawl or whatever the words you want to use. Right now it looks like, you know, this is going to be taken away from us essentially. We talked about the project and they said, oh yeah, it's going to be a big 4-lane highway. You're going to go right through the middle of your place practically. And oh, my wife was really upset, you could imagine. I mean, she was really crying almost every day. You know, in all honesty, I really can't see what the purpose of it is. I really can't see that any of this serves the taxpayers, the people of Tuscaloosa. I really don't. It seems to me that it's for some other purpose. I've talked to some of my neighbors who are very concerned about it also, and some of them have a fear, a very deep, serious fear, that part of this whole plan is instigated by some people who maybe bought up land and are looking to make a profit. Once you get one bypass and you get some suburban sprawl and you've got McDonald's and Hardee's and Exxon's out to one point, it's not going to stop there. It's not going to stop 5 miles past Jackson's. It's not going to stop necessarily at Bibb County line. We'd think about moving to Bibb County if we could, but from what I've seen, I'm thinking, well, you know, there's no promise that Bibb County's going to be any better in 30, 40 years.
Sometimes growth can bring dilemmas such as we find here. This lovely home was purchased with all available family funds so that the children could grow up in something of a country setting. Then, one day, the adjoining woodlands were stripped right up to the very edge of this family's yard and converted into multi-unit apartments.
We found this place and it was like a dream because it was so private and it had the acreage, and we really liked the house. Until suddenly we started hearing rumors that there was going to be some kind of housing development put there, and that concerned the neighbors, but we couldn't seem to find out anything specific about what was planning to be there. I've made numerous calls to the city council office and they always referred me to the city planning office. And when I called the city planning office, they seemed to know nothing about it. And I felt like that was just part of that they should have been letting us know, and they were not. It seems that the landowner has no rights, the way I feel about it, and it seems like that if a person is going to pay property taxes to the city, that should give them a little right to be at least courteously notified that something is taking place next to them. I feel very frustrated by this situation and betrayed by the officials and really have very little respect for their leadership, because we just, as I said, we couldn't get much out of them, and I think it was their duty to provide us information, and they were not.
As growth expands out into Tuscaloosa County, outlying places like Lake Tuscaloosa, once well removed from such development, now face new problems.
We get our drinking water from Lake Tuscaloosa. It is our primary source, and the lake was built for drinking water. This is our only water treatment plant for the city of Tuscaloosa. We take the water from Lake Tuscaloosa and we treat it here and pump it out to all of our towers and then to everyone's home. It is my main job to do the bacteriological quality, and I have seen those changes take place in that the counts are beginning to go up. We have seen what has happened in other states with uncontrolled development, and we don't want that to happen to our lake and our watershed.
Even the Black Warrior River is on the drawing boards for change, with proposed additions of park and recreational facilities, but with expectations for commercial development as well, causing some local people to wonder about the ultimate results.
The thing that's really significant about this corridor through Tuscaloosa County on the Black Warrior River is the fact that it's largely still a natural corridor. You don't see concrete and steel lining the river. I know there are plans at hand to do riverfront development, but I don't want to see this area end up like San Antonio or Chattanooga or, God forbid, New Orleans. And I'm worried about where the development goes. Where does it end?
Such a tranquil setting as this belies the fact that around Tuscaloosa County today, significant change is taking place. Change that can bring environmental conflict. And not just conflict about specific issues, but conflict about the overall direction for the future.
West Alabama, no doubt, can become a major metropolitan area.
One question I ask students all the time in the classroom is, do you want to see Tuscaloosa continue to grow and prosper? And everybody pretty much says, well, of course we do.
And we've got people now, I believe, in state government, in local government, in positions of leadership within the business community that can be sure, that can help ensure that all of the community grows, that the infrastructure is built to support it, and that we do become a major urban area in West Alabama.
And I say, well, would you like to see it grow as large as New York City? And generally they say, are you crazy? Of course not. I say, well then, why aren't we talking about limits to the growth?
I don't think there are any limits to growth.
This is a pretty neat place, and the things we have are nice, they're good, and we don't need this wild, continued growth.
Communities are always changing, so this might sound a bit cliche, but Tuscaloosa County today is at a crossroads. Which direction will it take? What do the citizens of Tuscaloosa County envision for their future?
Fortunately, these questions are a chief concern of a local planning initiative entitled Challenge 21.
And a good question is, how do we grow, and how do we continue to expand and recruit industries and new business and still preserve the rich rural heritage, the great quality of life that we have here, and the abundant natural resources that we have?
The purpose of Challenge 21 is to bring interested parties together, all of our citizens together, to create a vision, to achieve that vision for our future, to look at the past of where we've been and look at how we can move forward in the future, all for the betterment of our community.
It is not only a visioning concept, but it's a way to implement dreams and the ideals and the goals of a community. What I especially liked about it was that it's a grassroots approach.
And that said from the cowboy boots to the construction boots to the Nikes, the Adidas, to the business wingtips. Everybody had to be at the table, and that's what constituted community. So that's where we start here in Tuscaloosa, whatever arena we're dealing in, from education to athletics to business concerns, and even for playing for our city. Every shoe has to be on the table because every one of those shoes represent people.
Since its creation in 1994, the Challenge 21 program has sought to engage a diversity of interest groups in examining many areas of need.
But I think communication is the key, that people should be able to disagree without being disagreeable. My opinion should be just as valued as yours. Don't shoot me down, but because I have a difference of an opinion. I think if the dialogue was really sincere and secure, then people would understand each other.
Tuscaloosa is like most communities in this wonderful country. Education has to be its top priority. It's the way that we can make sure every child has a future. Where we need to put our resources is at the beginning, children 0 to 6, so that they get the right nurturing and start in life that they need. That's critical to their performance in school. It's critical to their future life.
Economic opportunity in the area brings challenges as well as benefits. So with that comes a need for leadership. And leadership breeds change, and agents of change is what good leaders are all about. Challenge 21 and Leadership Tuscaloosa are in the business about identifying leaders and making things happen that need to happen for the benefit of the entire community.
If we lose more and more prime farmland, farming as we know it, the family farm, the heritage of the family farm, the grassroots people will be a thing of the past.
As Tuscaloosans consider a range of needs, economic, social, educational, the environment, our natural heritage is a priority concern.
I know that you and others, myself, have a keen interest in the environment and the way all of this growth occurs within the context of the environment. The fact is that the environment doesn't have to has to suffer. It does not have to suffer.
I think that's very, very important that we balance that three-legged stool as such of environment, education, and economic progress. That is a critical issue, and I don't know if we embrace that as a community like we should sometimes.
Tuscaloosa's past is a story of a region with great natural appeal, attractive even to such wilderness pioneers as Davy Crockett. Tuscaloosa today remains an attraction of countryside and plentiful wild areas, though there have been some changes that would cause a Davy Crockett to take pause.
So I'm pleased to present to you my friend and our city councilor, Dave Crockett.
Good job. Good job. You're the man. We're delighted to be here. I am really delighted because of growing up here and seeing the great things that you're trying to do in Tuscaloosa. And I see you struggle with some of the same challenges as I can in McFarland Mall. I didn't know if I was in Tupelo, Memphis, Chattanooga, Atlanta, or whatever. As I saw the sign forest and the strip malls, which are a challenge to all of us to figure out, not that they're bad, but is that the way we want to do something in the future? We've done cities almost the same way. We could use them, then move out and move away and throw them away. And abandon the core cities in America in a pattern of development that has never been done anywhere on earth. Like dropping a pebble in a pond and watching it go out. And if you ever add the cost of that up, we can't sustain that in the 21st century. And it has tremendous implications.
Tuscaloosa tomorrow. Will this region become a forest of signs along endless corridors of development? Or will there still be forests of trees along plentiful corridors of nature? Will the accentuating feature of the landscape be rivers of asphalt or rivers? In short, will Tuscaloosa County maintain its abundant rural heritage, or will it become extensively urbanized? These are key questions being asked here in Tuscaloosa County and across much of Alabama. Our answers to these questions will determine not just what we might have in the future, but what we might be giving up. In our world today, change is occurring at an accelerating rate, with environmental dilemmas that are often complex. But as other parts of the nation experience extensive environmental losses, a simple truth comes clear. Alabama, with its bountiful backcountry, increasingly stands apart. Contrary to being behind, in many ways we are actually ahead. We still have the opportunity to appreciate and protect our native surroundings.
This program is supported by grants from the Robert G. Whaley Charitable Trust, the Alabama Wildlife Federation, and Legacy, Partners in Environmental Education.